Here's what I would do literally every single day. I would get into this hyper-focus mode where I would have like 20 tabs open all at once, answering emails while other stuff was loading in another tab, just because I didn't want to lose a single second. My thought process was, I'm being productive, right? Then lunchtime rolls around, my brain is already completely fried at that point. But the idea of actually taking a break, preparing a meal, sitting down to eat it, well, that to me also felt like a massive waste of time. So instead, I would just stand right here in the kitchen actually and shove whatever I could find in my face, whether that was cereal, cookies, those frozen toaster waffles, literally wolfing down anything within reach that gives me a quick energy boost, because all I wanted to do was get back to my desk as fast as possible to be more productive. As a result, I not only gained 22 pounds, but I also couldn't focus properly. My brain felt like total mush. I had this lingering tension and headache going on at all times and was just running on this unhealthy buzz, also known as cortisol overload, instead of allowing my brain actual breaks where my brain could reset and recharge. And the ironic part here is that all that unhealthy productivity made me way less productive. By the afternoon, I would be just staring at my screen, hopping from tab to tab, trying to start a task, but not actually knowing where to start because I was so overwhelmed and brain fogged by all the things that I had to do, so that I would just end in a cycle of procrastination just to numb that feeling of overwhelm. So while I seemingly spent all this time and all these hours on my computer, I get maybe an hour of actual work done at best. Literally everything took 3 times longer than it should have, just burning myself out before I knew it. And then at that point, when you'd be like, oh Kayo, maybe now is the time to slow down and take some breaks to get back to like an actual productive work mode again, my type A personality and high functioning anxiety were like, nah, taking breaks equal being lazy. And I'd already felt like there was never enough time to get through my never ending to-do list. So I would just be reaching for more sugar to try and keep up with the pace that I had set for myself. So honestly, we have that vicious cycle of like overworking, reaching for sugar, burning out, overworking some more, reaching for more sugar, and it goes on and on and on. So while that was me trying to figure a way out, I'm now a certified nutritionist and health coach, helping busy women like you heal burnout, lose weight, and feel energized again without diets, guilt, and overwhelm. So give me those 20 minutes and I will tell you exactly what helped me and my clients to finally stop those sugar cravings for good. Tip number 1 is to balance your blood sugar. Breakfast is literally the most important meal when it comes to sugar cravings. If you start your day with a very well-balanced meal, and by that I mean slow digesting carbs, healthy fats, and high in protein, your body will thank you later. This basically all boils down to keeping your blood sugar levels steady. Because here's the thing, so when we keep our blood sugar nice and steady, our cravings will reduce naturally. And that's because when we're on this glucose roller coaster, after every spike, there's always a crash. And that crash activates our craving center in our brain that literally tells your body to go find cookies, chocolate, chips, whatever, and eat them fast to level out those glucose levels again. The other thing that happens when we balance our glucose level is that our bodies become metabolically flexible, meaning that your body can switch effortlessly between burning glucose for fuel from like a recent meal, for example, but also burning fat for fuel in between meals. And so when you look at that, you can imagine that when you're metabolically unflexible and your body has basically forgotten how to use fat as fuel, that your body keeps relying on glucose that you get from food. And so as a result, you end up hungry again and keep craving those sugary, high-carb snacks every 2 hours or so, just to up those glucose stores as fast as possible. So to sum up, balancing your blood sugar levels by eating those balanced meals not only helps reduce those cravings, but also builds the capacity again to burning fat for fuel, which stops those intense cravings from coming up throughout the entire day. And while ideally with every single meal that you're having, you're trying and focusing on balancing your blood sugar levels, breakfast is by far the most important one here. Which brings me to tip number 2, which is actually paying attention to how you feel after a very sugary meal. Every time I eat some waffles or pancakes in the morning, I always, and doesn't matter how much I love it in the moment, always end up getting a headache and brain fog only a couple hours later, which basically leaves you feeling like crap for the rest of the day. On the contrary, when you eat a savory, balanced, healthy, fueling, nutritious breakfast, you feel instantly clear-headed, ready for the day, energized and motivated. And that's exactly the major difference I would like you to become aware of. At the beginning of my journey, it really helped me just writing it down in a food journal, and then later on it became more of like a mental note. But the more you realize how those sugar-loaded meals affect your mood, focus, productivity, and mental health, the easier it becomes to take that feeling and use it as your motivation every single day to keep making those healthy decisions and keeping that willpower going. And now if you're thinking, well, just noticing how much sugar affects my focus isn't going to be enough to bring my self-control back, then this next tip is for you. And that is to understand that sugar is an addiction and what actually works. Sugar really is this controlling substance that hijacks your brain by producing dopamine, the same chemical that activates the reward center, much in the same way as drugs like cocaine, for example. So just like an addictive drug, sugar makes you want to eat more sugar the more sugar you eat. But that can be a really powerful piece of knowledge, because if we reverse engineer that, it also means that our body will crave less sugar the less we eat of it. So your question might be, how am I going to do that when I'm already addicted and feel like a hopeless case because it's become such an ingrained habit? And so here are a few things that really made it so much easier to trick my brain into not wanting sugar as much until my cravings naturally went down. Kind of like a fake it until you make it thing. First is brushing your teeth after having a meal. Absolute game changer. That freshness of like a clean mouth and like a minty toothpaste will pretty much instantly kill any cravings for something sweet, a dessert, or even a second helping. Then if you just don't want the comfort of eating to end, try having a warm drink right after finishing eating and have it ready to go so that there's no barrier to use it as that kind of stopper. So for example, tonight before you eat dinner, you could make yourself a cup of tea, which you would slowly sip and enjoy right after eating. And this does two things. Number one, it feels comforting. And number two, it hydrates you, which brings me to staying hydrated and getting your electrolytes. Dehydration can actually mimic hunger. And all the metabolic functions in your body happen in a watery environment. So staying hydrated is absolutely vital for controlling your appetite and keeping your metabolism strong. But what we often miss is that hydration is a two-step process. You need water and electrolytes. As we probably all know, is that sugar causes a spike of insulin, which causes water retention. And so when you stop eating sugar, insulin levels drop, causing salt and water to get flushed out by your kidneys. And if you don't replenish them, you'll feel off and hungry. Luckily, this one is an easy one to fix by either just using an electrolyte supplement, those powders that you just dissolve in some water, or by adding a pinch of sea salt and maybe a drop of lemon juice into your drink. I find that often when I think that I'm craving sugar or food, I'm actually just thirsty. But when I stay on top of my electrolytes and water intake, those cravings just go away. And then other things that work is having a shower or going for a walk. Anything that refreshes your mind and body naturally can make those cravings go away. Then we have the 3-bite rule, which means eat slow, savor every single bite, but try stopping after 3 to 4 bites of your sweet treat or dessert. If we're being honest, the first few bites are usually always the best. So once you've savored them and truly enjoyed them, set a timer to 20 minutes. And if you then still 100% crave some more, have some more by all means, because we do want to get away from that restrictive mentality. But more often than not, those cravings will have gone away after those 20 minutes and you will have long forgotten about them because you allow yourself to indulge in moderation. The other tip is that when you do want something sweet, try swapping it out with either dark chocolate or fruit. I also still want something sweet every single day because of my massive sweet tooth. But so what I've tried to do is just swap them out with like healthier options every once in a while until it becomes a habit naturally. Plus, fruits are also a very good source of electrolytes. So you pretty much kill 2 birds with 1 stone, which also brings me to stocking your fridge with healthy snacks. I've noticed with myself that usually I just reach for whatever is there in the moment. If sweets are all that there is, I will of course reach for them. But if I have carrots cut into bite-sized pieces ready to go with some homemade hummus, then maybe I'll actually prefer going for that than the sweets. At one point, I had someone talk about this all-you-can-eat buffet analogy. So imagine a buffet literally filled with everything you could possibly imagine and dream of. Ask yourself the question, would you reach for that sugary snack? Maybe you've been to one of those all-inclusive hotels that they have in Spain and wherever else. And then on the first day, you go to breakfast, you have all the buffet laid out, and you literally pile onto your plate everything within reach because you want to try it all. You see it all, you get big eyes, and fill up your plate. But after a week, at that same hotel with the same buffet for days, I guarantee you will fill up your plate with what you truly want and what you truly know you will enjoy, and the rest just isn't as tempting anymore. And it's the same thing in real life. If you've been depriving yourself this whole time of anything sweet and tasty, your body will want to try it every single time it's within reach, or establish those cravings when it's not. But when you allow yourself to have whatever you want, whenever you want it, plus that 3-bite rule that we just talked about and setting your timer, those things really will lose their appeal eventually and naturally. And that's when you can tap into that intuitive eating, where you just have a good sense of what your body wants, what your body needs, how much it needs, and when it needs what, without going overboard, of course, but also without the restriction. Which brings me to the concept called crowding out. Instead of deprivation, which is absolutely everything we want to avoid, the more you eat healthy things, the less room you will have for anything sweet. If you're hungry and just start eating cookies, I am sure any of us could demolish 10 at a minimum just to feel full. But if you've loaded up on a proper, savory, nourishing, filling meal first, you're just not as hungry anymore. You're already pretty satisfied, and only one cookie will likely be enough just to satisfy that sweetness, but you won't need 10 to just fill you up. So all I'm trying to say here is that you should absolutely be able to go out and enjoy a piece of cake at the birthday party, or some chocolate and some gelato during the day, but just make sure that when you're truly hungry, load up on something else first, and then be much more intentional about it. Allow yourself those indulgences and really savor them. But then equally be intentional about it and say, okay, I had some, I enjoyed it, but now I'm okay. I don't need more. It's all about that intuitive eating. Okay, so all of those last tips that I've just given you can really help during that transition phase of us trying to trick our brain into wanting and eating less sugar. Do this for 2 weeks and I swear you will notice a massive difference, because usually it does take those 2 weeks for cravings to naturally go down, or at least become less intense. And then if you stick with it even longer, eventually it will become second nature until things will actually start to taste too sweet. You may not believe me right now, but it is a fact. I used to love, absolutely love, milk chocolate, nougat, anything like really sweet. I could easily eat 2 chocolate bars at once. Easy. That's how much I loved it. But over the months and years, my taste buds have actually gotten so used to dark chocolate and homemade snacks, which tend to always have less sugar in them, that regular chocolate now genuinely is too sweet for my liking. I cannot eat more than 2 pieces without feeling almost like nauseous. No joke. And that is coming from someone who could literally demolish 2 bars in one sitting. Same with store-bought cakes. Even to this day, I love cakes. But same thing, now that I've moved away from those store-bought high-sugar cakes, I can barely even taste it without being like, oh, it's just too sweet. No thanks. Like, I genuinely don't want to eat more because it's very sweet. So follow these tips and trust me, your taste buds will change too. So this video is already packed with tips and I've already given you everything to kind of change things in the short term. But this wouldn't be a Kaizen wellness video if we didn't also talk about the long-term goals. So even if it sounds a little boring at first, hear me out. You need to understand why you're reaching for sugar. If you really want to make long-term progress, and for that, we do need to also speak about emotional eating. Anger, loneliness, boredom, feeling tired, low on energy, all of these emotions can easily trigger you to reach for something that gives you comfort or like a pick-me-up, just like it was for me back then and still is to this day on some days. But unless you want to just scratch on the surface, you need to dig deeper, you need to understand your emotions, what you're feeling, and most importantly, why you're feeling them. And then once you figure that out, you can then deal with those emotions in a healthier way by finding alternative solutions that isn't food, like going to bed early when you're tired, finding a new hobby when you're bored, talking to a friend when you're lonely, working out when you're angry, all of these instead of reaching for that sugary snack. So taking a break, power napping, going for a walk, just doing something that isn't eating. Unless of course you're actually hungry, then please always eat. And I know this is all way easier said than done, and it will never be a linear progress. But if you want me to do a whole video on this topic with extra tips, then please let me know in the comments. Okay, Last but not least is understanding how burnout and sugar are related. There was a time when I would solely rely on sugar and food to get me through those high intense work sessions. Back when I was burning out, I could not stop. I would lock in. I would sometimes forget to go pee till my bladder was just screaming at me. I would go a million miles an hour just to get as much done as possible because that to-do list seemed to never end. I also couldn't take a break because I would feel guilty and like I was wasting time or something, to a point where I would have every single meal in front of the computer and just grabbing the quickest snack I could find, because even preparing a meal, cooking it and sitting down to eat it with no distractions felt like a complete waste of time. So if there's just one takeaway from this video, or maybe two, it's this: fill up on those balanced, nutritious, filling meals with lots of protein, healthy fats, and slow digesting carbs. But just as important, give yourself some real breaks. Fresh air, no phones, no screens, no distractions, ideally not even reading, just no stimulation for 10 minutes. That's literally enough sometimes. But let your nervous system reset at least twice a day. If you find like you have to have something on in the background, then for me, it's either listening to calming frequencies, ASMR, meditative music, or even nature sounds while I just close my eyes. That alone can make a huge difference in resetting your brain clarity, focus, and ability to keep going for the day without burning out. It really removed me from this high pressure survival mode. And as a result, I felt like I wasn't completely depleted by 2 p.m. I started feeling like I couldn't physically keep going without needing to either nap or have a sugary snack. I became so much more productive, efficient, motivated. It improved my health, focus, sleep. My headaches went away. I had pretty sustained energy levels throughout the day, and I feel way less lethargic. I feel much more mentally capable, much healthier skin with this like healthy glow, better mood, better memory. I lost some weight. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. And for all of these benefits, just having that one contributing factor, that is sugar, and eating less of it. That's pretty incredible, right? So let me be realistic here. No one said it's gonna be easy. It definitely requires willpower and discipline at first, which is why mindset work is so important here. But that's also why I've given you those small tips and tricks and habits that can really help you trick your brain into eating less sugar until you get there to like a more effortless, natural situation. Plus, once you truly internalize all those benefits that I've just listed of balancing blood sugar, resetting your nervous system on a regular basis, and cutting back on sugar, it will become so much easier making those healthy decisions in the long run. And your cravings will go down automatically eventually. Trust me. It's this compounding effect. Start with the basics and get the momentum going to succeed.